So today, it's a bit lastminute.com. I'm going to see if I can catch a trout. Again, not using the word in the plural sense, singular, not pushing my luck here. I went a few weeks ago and I didn't realise it initially, but the trout were obsessed with tiny fry, and I tried every fly in the box, caught absolutely nothing. So what did I do? As soon as I got home, I went online and I bought a load of flies that imitate fry. Next time I went to the lake, not a fry to be seen, and I'd got all these fry flies. Now, a few weeks later, I'm told that the trout are eating snails. So I did a little bit of research because I didn't think I had anything that resembled a snail. I got some that resemble shrimps, and to those who understand these things, there's probably not a great deal of similarity between a shrimp and a snail, but I bought some things called blobs. I have to say, from my point of view, they look like the last thing that you could use to catch a trout on, but I'm told that they may work. I've also got some things called fabs. Sorry, they look like the very last thing you'd ever put in the water to try and catch a trout. And I also have my backup black buzzer strategy. So there's the plan. I also realised a week or so ago that I've got so many fly boxes. I bought a fly box for dial Bachs. I bought a fly box for lures. I bought a fly box for buzzers. I bought a fly box for nymphs. I've got fly boxes for everything, and I spend more time rummaging around in my tackle bag looking for the right fly box for the right fly. And so I bit the bullet. I bought a huge fly box that holds 650 flies, which I thought would be more than adequate. I've spent ages poking all my little flies into these little compartments, and it's full. So if I have to catch a trout on anything other than the flies I've got in my box, I'm stuffed. I'm going to have to go back to using yet another fly box. So we'll see. The plan is to see if A, they are feeding on snails, and if so, to see whether a fab or these blobs will work. I will keep you informed. So I'm just off to get a couple of sausage rolls from my favourite sausage roll shop, because it's getting towards lunchtime and the last thing I want to do is be hungry when I'm trout fishing. Sausage rolls. Sausage rolls. What's not to like? Well, we've arrived at the lake. We were expecting rain. We're not expecting rain now. How would we describe the weather conditions? Coolish, cloudy, warmish, windy. It's quite windy. What to do? I'm thinking possibly 8 weight. Might be a bit windy to do any proper casting. I don't know if you can hear that wind, but it's windy. So we've arrived. This is our fishing contraption for the next few hours. Boat, outboard, rods, time to go. Don't let go of the painter. Don't let go of the painter. Don't let go of the painter. Right. And away. Oh, we seem to be in the weeds. Don't panic, Captain Mannering. Worst things happen at sea, allegedly. Right, so where are we going? Where are we going? So we've arrived. The question is, so 9'8" weight, I think. I've got the wind. Where have I got the wind? I've got the wind everywhere. This could be a tricky. It kind of is swirling. So this may be very, very frustrating. So let's get the 4 pieces out. 1, 2, 3. Heart in mouth. 4. And already I'm thinking, is it blob or is it buzzer? To be honest, I do feel as if I want to see if I can catch a trout on a blob, not having caught one before. Not even sure how you fish them. I guess you just have one on the points, and do you retrieve it? Do you leave it static? I suppose I'm thinking snails. A snail is not exactly the cheetah, is it? So maybe you just let it drift. Okay, that's the plan then. We're gonna put a floating line on, 8 weight, and we're gonna let the whole thing drift. It may not be long before I have my waterproofs on, not because I'm expecting rain. So this is my new tackle box. I kind of feel as if it should have wheels on the bottom and a handle so I can wheel it through the airport. And what did I say? I said an 8 weight, didn't I? Weight floating 8. That's the baby. So let's get this tackled up. So these are my blobs. Anything less inclined to catch a fish, it'd be hard to think of, but I'll maybe go for something a bit dark, or very dark. I've never seen a yellow snail or a fluorescent snail. So that's a sort of pink, and what's that, brown, black, grey. Okay, you can tell I'm really feeling positive about this. We will do what we can do. Okay, first cast on the blob. And the line's caught round the rod bag. That's a pretty rubbish cast, but it's in the water. And the fishing session has officially begun. There's a fish jumping over there, but I can't cast over there because I've got the wind right in my face if I try that. So we'll just fish this, I think, pretty static. I'm assuming that snails will just float on the bottom. No, they'd float, wouldn't they? I suppose it depends if they're floating snails or sinking snails. I bet they've got the ability to put air into their body. But that blob doesn't look to me like it sinks unless you put some fly sinkant on it. or use a sink tip. The trouble is it's mid-May and there's quite a lot of weed starting to grow up. The water's very clear, but I don't really want to use a sink tip. So I think what I'll do is I'll do a few casts where I'm just literally letting it drift with the wind, and then if nothing happens, fish jumped over there, if nothing happens I'll maybe put a bit of movement into the fly and see what's what, and if still there's nothing happening, change the colour of the blob. They're jumping everywhere. No, they're not jumping everywhere, Len. 2 have jumped. Calm down. I had a look in the catch record. There's not much been caught. But hey, that doesn't mean I'm not going to catch anything, because I'm using blobs. So I'm at that point in proceedings where you're like 15 minutes in and you're thinking, this plan of mine looks like it needs a bit of tweaking. So I've changed blobs to from a sort of brown and pink one to a brown and yellow and pink one. Nothing yet. So I've got a cup of tea and I'm just starting on the sausage rolls. So I'm thinking to myself, was my intel wrong about the trout on the snails? If it wasn't wrong, is the snail thing in another part of the lake? I'd really like to catch a fly on a blob, a fish on a blob, I have to say, but this is valuable fishing time here. Okay, I'm going to give it another 15 minutes on the blobs, and then I'm going to try what? Buzzer. Your good health. So sticking to the plan, the blobs haven't produced even a nibble. So what I've done is I've put a fab on the end as like a float, and then a bit further down I'm going to tie a dropper, and I'm going to put a black buzzer so it's about 4 inches under the surface, and that's my plan B, or is it C? It's funny, I put that fab on the point, I've tied on a dropper and put that size 16 black buzzer with a silver rib on it, and already I'm feeling like I might catch a fish. It's funny, you just got to look at a fly and think, oh, I don't think that's going to catch anything. But the sausage rolls are doing good. Oh, don't believe it. I saw the fab go under like a float, and I think we're in the money. Didn't catch a fish, but that was my first cast, and it felt promising. Oh! Another one. I was about to say there's some swallows. So let me show you my... So this is the black buzzer. It's a tiny little beast. It's getting windy. So we've got the fab on the point, which is yellow, but it's got a big bit of foam in there. And then about 18 inches away I've got a buzzer suspended on about a 6-inch dropper, and already I feel as if I've lost 2 fish. Come on. So it's time to move and see if we can catch a fish somewhere else, because I haven't caught one here, that's for sure. So I'm thinking it means getting into the full force of the wind. We're leaving the shelter of this little island, but frankly, I'd rather be catching a fish than being in shelter. Well, here's to nothing. It's really exposed here, but then again, it's deeper water. Right, so this buzzer's still the right tactic. There's a lot of swallows, so maybe there are flies emerging. I do have some emergers. I'm going to stick with the buzzers for a little longer. I just thought I'd keep you up to speed with what is not catching fish. So I've got a little buzzer on the point fly with a little bit of foam on the head, as it were, and I've got a dial back on, because I'm just wondering if the reason these swallows are all flying around is because there are flies emerging. I mean, they could be coming off the land, obviously, but they might not be. So that's the latest not catching fish technique. There will be others, I can assure you. That wasn't on camera, but I was doing a slow figure of 8 retrieve, and I definitely had quite a savage take. I suspect it was on the dial back, because I didn't see a trout on the surface, but then again, the water is so rough, it's so windy, I probably wouldn't have seen it, but I think I might have seen something. That's encouraging. Dial back on the dropper. So this is the lake view, and as you can see, it's a little bit on the choppy side. It's not doing much for casting or bite detection, so it's all being done by feel. So we have moved again. The water where I was fishing, although it was deeper, it wasn't deep enough, and I kept on feeling the weed, and so I've moved into deeper water still, which should mean that there'll be plenty of opportunity for the fly to be seen above the weed for any passing trout. I have to say, the lack of fish and the weather is starting to annoy me a little bit, in the sense that I'm getting quite cold. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition. Oh, that's a fish. Literally just moved. First cast. Fish on. Now, was it? Go away from my anchors. Oh, it's running. Running. Oh, it's taking line. So when I fish with a dropper, I'm always asking myself, oh, it's really racing. I suppose it's the deep water, it can get its head down. So I'm thinking, which fly was it? Because I've got a brown nymph. Whoa, it's really racing. A brown nymph on the point fly, and then a dial Bachs. Come on. Stay away from my anchors. Obviously it can't hear me, I realise that. It's really more about me saying keep the fish away from the anchor. The water's so clear, I'm not quite sure if it's... Whoa, it's not wanting to come in, that's for sure. I'm not sure if it's 6 inches under the water or 3 feet. Come on. No, not the boat. Not the boat. Right. I'm going to see if I can get its head. Oh no, he doesn't want to get its head up yet. Definitely not. I'm hoping it's securely hooked. Right, it's swimming along the surface, which to me means it's time to try and bring it in. Come to daddy. Which was the fly? It was the dial Bachs. So needless to say, having called that on the dial Bachs, I'm going full dial Bachs now. And so this is my dial Bachs selection that I couldn't get into my massive 650 fly box. So let's go with another dial Bachs. Yeah. The thing about catching a trout when you move on your first cast is your expectation is you're going to catch another one, which may or may not be true. So let me just get this tied on and we'll cast out again. Right, I just want to put on record that everything I said about being cold and miserable and fed up and potentially going home, forget. One fish caught, game on. The cunning plan with the drowned dry flies hasn't worked, so when all else fails, try putting on a black natty thing, and that's what I got on. And if this doesn't catch, then I'm going to be very grateful I caught one on a dial Bachs, and I'm going to call it a day. No, it just doesn't feel like there's another fish coming. So I have changed flies yet again, but absolutely nothing. So it's time to accept the fact that it's not going to be today. We had one, we had a couple of plucks, and to be fair, it's been a pretty horrible day weather-wise. Mainly windy, cold, and fortunately I've had the wind at my back the whole time, and I've had 2 sausage rolls and a big cup of tea. So he who fishes and goes away lives to fish another day, as they say.